Once, in a land of marble towers and golden sunlight, there lived a prince named Lysander. He was admired by the people for his sharp wit and admired for speaking plainly in a world cloaked in flattery. If something displeased him, he said so. If he had an opinion, he shared it, without pause or polish. At court, many claimed to love him for it. They laughed at his jests and praised his refreshing honesty. "Your Highness, what do you think of my new hat?" asked Bellamy, a noble with a flair for fashion. Lysander chuckled, shaking his head. "Bellamy, it looks like a parrot lost a fight on your head." The courtiers roared with laughter, and Bellamy forced a smile. "Ah, only you could say it so well, my prince." "Someone must speak the truth," Lysander replied with a wink. "Might as well be me." Later that week, Edmund, the royal gardener, presented a newly designed layout for the palace grounds. "My prince, this new garden reflects the royal crest. I thought it would bring a sense of pride and beauty." Lysander studied the swirling paths and floral arcs. "Looks like a child got carried away with a crayon. Too busy, too messy. Gardens should soothe, not confuse." Edmund bowed, trying to hide his crushed expression. That night, under moonlight, he tore up his design with trembling hands and buried the evidence in silence. At the next banquet, Lady Rosamond stood to sing. Her voice, gentle but raw with emotion, floated through the hall. When she finished, the room clapped politely. Lysander leaned forward. "Rosamond, that was heartfelt. But the high notes, a little screechy, maybe tone those down next time." Her smile faded. "Of course, Your Highness." She never performed again. Weeks later, she left the court entirely. The music within her faded, like a candle snuffed too soon. One morning, over breakfast, Lysander spoke with Peregrine, his most trusted advisor and childhood friend. "The people seem cheerful today," Peregrine remarked, sipping tea. "In a world full of false smiles, a truthful voice is like fresh air," said Lysander. "They appreciate it." "Perhaps," said Peregrine carefully, "though I did notice the garden was redone. And Lady Rosamond hasn't been seen for some time. They'll bounce back. A little criticism helps people grow." Just then, a servant brought a new dessert. Lysander poked it with a fork. "Decorative. Overly so. What's next?" "Candied flowers shaped like dragons." Peregrine said nothing, as always, letting the prince's words roll off like rain on stone. Later, in council, Peregrine presented a proposal. "The northern provinces are tense over water rights. If we initiate a shared management treaty, a treaty," Lysander interrupted, "while they dig trenches at our borders. A peaceful resolution avoids war. A joint agreement shows strength through diplomacy." Lysander stood. "Strength is not bending to threats. Your compromise is cowardice." Peregrine's face twitched, but he didn't argue. He simply lowered his head. "That's why you'll never lead, old friend. No fire. Just endless, weak agreements." The next morning, Peregrine was gone. No farewells. Just an empty chamber and a letter on his desk. He had resigned. "You let him leave?" Lysander demanded. "Your Highness," the steward replied. "He left before dawn. Said he had served his purpose. He served 20 years. He was like a brother. He mentioned feeling unvalued. This is absurd. I'll find him myself, Your Highness, with tensions at the border. This requires no generals, just one man, and an apology. People are too sensitive these days." He mounted his horse and rode. "Rosamond," Lysander dismounted with a grin. "Did Peregrine pass through here?" "I haven't seen him," she replied, not rising. "How surprising to find you here. You've taken to teaching now. You walked away from royal recognition." "I chose an audience that listens without judgment," she said softly. "But your talent was praised, was it?" she asked, tilting her head. "You once called my voice shrill. I stopped singing soon after. It was just one remark. Perhaps to you. To me, it echoed for days. Some people grow with feedback. Others need belief before correction." "I meant to help," he said. "Not everyone hears help in harshness." She returned to her students. Lysander remained uneasy. Further east, he found Sir Derek, the former captain of the guard, now tending goats in the mountain air. Once, Derek had been the kingdom's greatest warrior. Until an injury took his voice. "Derek," Lysander called. Derek bowed silently. Lysander frowned. "Still can't speak." Derek nodded, then scribbled on a slate. "An old wound. I seek Peregrine." Another note. "He passed here 3 days ago." Of course he did. Was he upset? Derek wrote. "Yes, Deeply. I was blunt, yes, but surely not enough to make him abandon everything. Derek paused before writing. Words cut deeper than swords. Lysander remembered. The time he mocked Derek's handling of a border ambush, claiming, even a farmer could have planned better. He hadn't meant it. Not really. Still, Derek had stepped down soon after. You left because of me. Another slate reply. I serve where I'm valued. I never realized. Derek nodded slowly. Lysander read the final note. The air is lighter here. So is the weight. Eventually, Lysander reached a quiet monastery, home to monks and scholars. There, in a sunlit study, sat Peregrine, surrounded by scrolls. You found me, said Peregrine, not surprised. You didn't make it easy. I wasn't hiding. Just continuing my work. You belong at court. We need your wisdom. I think not. You're leaving because of one disagreement. No, Lysander. I left because of hundreds. Peregrine's voice held no anger, only truth. For years, you've chipped away at me. Jokes, jabs, dismissals in council. I laughed them off. Everyone did. But they added up. I didn't know. That's part of the issue. You didn't care enough to notice. I care now. I came all this way to say sorry. I forgave you already. But forgiveness doesn't restore trust. Not easily. What do I do? Change. Not with grand gestures, but with intent. Truth without kindness is cruelty, Lysander. Words aren't harmless. Once spoken, they don't vanish. Lysander looked at the books around them. You always loved stories. Peregrine handed him a worn manuscript. This one I translated myself. It's called The Weight of Words. It's about a king whose crown grew heavier with every careless thing he said. Eventually, it became unbearable. Until he learned to speak less and listen more. Lysander held the book, and the crown grew lighter. Yes, as did his heart. I want to be that king. Then start by listening. Lysander returned to the palace quietly. No announcements. He simply began to change. At the next council meeting, Edmund nervously presented a new garden sketch. I've reworked the layout, Your Highness. It blends tradition with a bit of artistic risk. Lysander studied it. I think I understand what you're aiming for. I'm no expert, but I trust you are. Edmund smiled. Thank you, sire. Later, a villager brought a concern. If the taxes could be delayed until after harvest, my people would survive the winter. Another noble interrupted. That's preposterous. We'd set a terrible precedent. Lysander raised a hand. Let him finish. Tell me more about your village. The man did, and Lysander listened. Truly listened. In time, the people noticed. They spoke more openly. Even those who once feared his sharp tongue began to share their ideas again. He no longer mocked. He asked questions. And while he still valued truth, he learned that truth, like fire, could warm or burn, depending on how it was delivered. He came to be known no longer as the silver-tongued prince, but as the listening king.